Media Watch now. James Creedon is here to tell us what has been making a buzz online. Good to see you, James. And of course, we're going to talk about the reaction around the world and here in France to those shocking scenes in Paris and in other cities across France at the weekend.
That's right, third weekend in a row. And just to look first at the headlines and how it's being sort of depicted in the international press, the New York Times talking about the possibility of a state of emergency. That's been sort of put to one side for now, but it was being weighed up over the weekend with the worst civil unrest in more than a decade, as the New York Times was reporting. Diffuse, seemingly leaderless and organised over the internet, they have drawn deepening and widespread support around the country where other demonstrations were held on Saturday. Now, if it's civil unrest for the New York Times, Time magazine is actually talking about an atmosphere of civil war. So I guess viewed from abroad, especially because it's the most violent scenes that got a lot of the attention of the cameras and whatnot, this really does look like another instalment of Paris is Burning, which kind of is sort of an ongoing drama in the international press whenever there are protests in France, which is more regularly than abroad.
There is a culture of street protest here that some other countries don't really get, do they?
That's right. And so I suppose in France, you know, that it's put in that we understand it within that context, but even in France, there's a clear understanding that there's something different about
this time
this.
Around, right? Not least because there are no leaders.
That's right, and because it's quite even though it's quite diffuse, there seems to be public support for this. I mean, the polls are showing quite high numbers of
80%.
That's right. This poll is saying 72%, but there's some saying higher, some saying lower. Bloomberg, France's dangerous yellow vest protesters, and what they're saying is they're contrasting Emmanuel Macron's 2017 and his 2018. It's hard to believe that he was elected in May 2017, which is less than a year and a half ago. Obliterated the two establishment parties that had run France for 30 years, positioned himself as a reformer and hoped to establish himself as a centrist consensus builder, if you like. And now his polls are at a record low. His party, the Republic on Move party, is far from becoming an established real political party. The yellow vests are reflecting frustration, says this article, at a young leader whose agenda is perceived as favouring the rich and whose manner is regarded as aloof and arrogant. And to pick up on that point, this is François Ruffin of the far left, La France Insoumise, so unsurprisingly not a fan of Emmanuel Macron. But he has written two letters and he claims to have his finger on the pulse, but a lot of politicians are doing that, of the Yellow Vest movement. And what he's saying is, look, approval ratings are about as low as they were for previous presidents, so that's not so different. What's different about Emmanuel Macron is there seems to be a quarter to a third of the population that actually really don't like him, The word here is i.e. he's the hated president. In any case, that is the rallying call for a lot of people on the streets. You might have thought, look, I'll put that one aside. I have enough to read at the moment. Elsewhere, you have the Huffington Post talking about how busy the Prime Minister was today. A hugely busy day, meeting various different representatives that they're showing here. It's probably hard to see it, but 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 p.m, 1:30, various meetings with various political leaders.
But no statement from Macron still.
Whereas actually
the Interior Minister right now is speaking.
But actually, Emmanuel Macron didn't publish on the Elysée website anything for Monday.
We haven't heard from him since he was in Argentina.
That's right. And he chose to not speak on Sunday when he came back. So in any case, it does seem that the Prime Minister is taking the lead. Again, that's protocol-wise not unusual. But the fact that Macron is staying so far back is an indication that he is aware, I suppose, that it's better to leave the Prime Minister.
Doesn't add fuel to the fire.
That's it. Le Monde talking about how prefects dealing with all sorts of administrative questions that control the police and fire departments around the country, that they have also been criticising an aloofness with the executive, with the Elysée. So really, there is a lot of anger being directed at Emmanuel Macron.
And the police are very angry as well. We've seen a lot of spokespeople for the police saying they simply have not had the support. They are the final frontier protecting the public from these some of these violent protesters, and they say they're not getting enough support. 23 of them were injured during the protest. Some of them have been photographed wearing gilets jaunes themselves.
That's right.
Which is
and I suppose the thing is, it's so easy if you just put on a gilet jaune, you could be totally, from any political persuasion, you could be far right, far left, who knows? And you could be hijacking the movement. I think there has been, there's certainly been an element of that with the violence.
Absolutely.
The police then actually themselves, apparently donning Gilets jaunes at various points. This was one Le Monde reporter showing, I'm not sure how easy it is to see there, but you do have police in helmets wearing Gilets jaunes. I suppose police infiltrating protest movements is not unusual, and that's what the police were saying to this in response to this article.
And it's very confusing, isn't it? Because these Gilets jaunes are traditionally worn by emergency workers as well. So it's...
Well, actually, personal anecdote, I was walking around the Latin Quarter, which was less affected than other parts of the city, and you had street cleaners who were wearing their yellow jackets in the midst of protesters and whatever. So it was quite confusing at various points, because you see, state employees and whatnot dressed the same as protesters, and then you even had some of the police kind of dressing up like that as well. So it was very confusing.
And this is very sad, isn't it?
This is one image from the Arc de Triomphe, which which got a lot of criticism. Well, it's not actually Marianne in the end. It was presented as Marianne, which is a symbol of the Republic, and various people were correcting that. But people felt, okay...
This is inside the Arc de Triomphe.
Right. So it was seen as symbolically particularly mindless in terms of vandalism. Gosh, so much to show on this, Laura. We'll have.
I love this one. Yeah.
I'll just leave it at this. This is a wedding dress in a window. The people were afraid that the windows are going to be smashed, so they what would you say? Gave it some.
They dressed it up with a
gilet jaune.
I wonder if any ladies will be doing that on their wedding day. I don't know. That's a beautiful.
Maybe not, but I think it saved the shop window.
I hope so. All right, James. Thank you very much indeed, James Creedon there.